plus 12y plus 9. So that first step was set it equal to 0. Set equal to 0, and then this is factoring right here. Now here's the thing. When you are tasked with factoring, make sure you test what you're doing. It's really easy to do these such that they don't work. So are you okay with how it factored to here?
No,
you don't? Okay, so here's the thing. So when you factor this thing, you know that the first two terms have to multiply together to get 4y squared. Mm-hmm. So you could start with 2y and 2y, and you know that the last two have to multiply together to get 9. Mm-hmm. So one option there is plus 3 and plus 3. Now you have to test it to see if it works. This is indeed the right answer. Let's test it. 2y times 2y is not 2. What is it? 4y squared. And then you get 6y and then 6y and then
9.
And does it work?
Yes.
It does work. This indeed is 12y. So this does make you happy. That does check. Now other things you might have tested before you got there, you might have tried like 4y plus 3 and y plus 3. Because technically 4y times y is 4y squared. But then you get 12y plus 3y plus 9. Is that the right answer? 15y makes you sad because that's not what you're looking for right there. So you just have to test. What I recommend when you test, don't erase and don't like scratch out a whole bunch. I've seen people do it many times where they have like maybe 3 things to test and they test 2 of them, but they forget about the third because they've like erased what they've done and they do like only they don't test all the possibilities. Does that make sense? So now there's 2 of the same one here, right?
Yeah.
So that turns into square. What do you do to get from here to here? Set it equal to 0. You have to make it equal 0. And now, if you have a cubic, what's the only method you guys have right now for factoring a cubic? Grouping is the only thing you have. So you want to test grouping to see if it works. You look at the first 2. What can you factor out of the first 2? What can you factor out of the first 2 terms?
X squared.
You factor out an x squared. And what can you factor out of the other 2 terms?
Negative.
And when you put those together, you end up with x squared minus 1. What's the common term that's being multiplied by both? X plus 3. How does that look to you right there? X squared of them, and you have minus 25 of them. They go right here. But what do you now have in the purple? What is that called? That is a difference of squares. And what's right next to it? There's 2 differences of squares here. There's one right here and right next to it. So that factors into this, and this factors into that. So you have 4 things multiplied together right there. Here's what they become. There and there. Here's the thing, Stephen. It really comes down to just remembering if you have like 6 apples and 12 apples, that's the same as 6 plus 12 apples. If you have 2 common things here, x squared minus 9, you just take these 2 things and put them together. This just went right here. Does that kind of make sense right there? Yeah. This is a neat one. It's 2 differences of squares multiplied together. Comes out pretty nice. I think it's pretty cool. Any last question of pieces here? So that's a good question. So when you have all 3 multiplied together, what you do is do it in pieces. So let's take a look at this. Let's do it in pieces. So d times d is d squared. D times negative 3 is, they're combined, negative 3 and 1d. That's this one in the middle. And then 1 times negative 3 is right there. So another way to say that is you have d plus 1 times d minus 3. That is d squared minus 3d plus d minus 3. But what does that turn into? D squared minus 2d minus 3. That's what's right there. So then this one just goes straight down. And then what do? You do everything in the first one times everything in the second one. You have d squared times 3d. What does that become? What does that become?
3D.
Oh, I just erased that. I gotta make sure I fix that. Yeah, 3d cubed. So you do each one. So each one of those gets multiplied out. D squared times 3d is 3d squared. D squared times negative 2 is negative 2d squared. So there's those, there's that, there's that. You do it out piece by piece, piece by piece. And then the key is, please be careful right here. You see this minus sign, everybody? Minus, minus, minus. You do all the multiplication, keeping the minus on the outside. And then what do you do with the minus sign? Then distribute the minus sign in. Be really careful. So this question, the process isn't that bad. The algebra is a little bit complex. The algebra is complex. So you have minus 2x. Now you multiply the same thing. Negative 2x times x squared, negative 2x cubed. Negative 2x times negative 3 is what?
Negative 6x.
6x, exactly. Now you do the same subtraction. What are you left with?
Negative 15x squared.
Drop down the...
12x.
Nope. Nope.
Oh, subtraction. Drop down to 45.
Correct. So what's the leading term now? 15.
X squared.
Yep. Over.
X squared.
Equals.
Negative 15.
And then you do minus 15. And you get negative 15x squared plus what? Plus 40.
From the negative 15
Yeah.
on top multiplied by the
Negative 3.
Okay.
You subtract it. What are you left with?
0.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah, it makes
So now it tells you, you're not done. It tells you that you now have x squared minus 3 times what? X squared minus...
minus 2x minus 15.
And now you keep factoring. What does it become? X minus...
X minus
And x...
5.
X minus 5.
X plus 3.
Does that work? It sure does.
Yeah.
You're done.
Okay.
It's just factoring, so you're not solving.